Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to my next episode of my franchise live series that I'm doing for the summer. Today, I am joined by Tali, aka Tali Reads, and Katherine Silva, and we are going to be talking the Underworld franchise, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of the in-between stuff. So, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like super pumped about this conversation. I love this franchise.
Yeah, me too. It's a good one.
So do I.
Yeah. I'm going to let you guys take a couple minutes, talk about yourselves. Tali, you want to start with you and tell everybody a little bit about you?
Sure. My name is Tali, and I go by Tali Reads on Twitter, and I go by Escape Reality for now on Instagram. And I am really a horror reader, but I read books of all genres, and I love to read them and review them and talk about them. I also share my love of movies on Twitter, so you can always get that on Twitter, what I'm watching and what I'm, checking out. So that's me.
No, cool. Thanks. What about you, Kat?
I am a horror author. I have 8 or 9 books out now. I like to write existential horror, lots of grief horror, basically like to make you super, super sad. And my latest book, The Wild Fall, is coming out in August, which I'm very excited about. There it is right there in all its glory. Yeah, that's me.
I have a bunch of them. So I started here.
I wrote that one down.
The Wild Dart.
Wild Dart, okay.
There's book 1.
And then now I have, The Wild Fall, which I showed.
Okay.
Hallowed Oblivion, which is part of that series.
Yeah.
And then
you
this
have to
one
read
I
them in
haven't
order?
started yet.
Are they standalone, or do you have to read them in order?
So the Hallowed Oblivion is like a prequel. I think it's actually more enjoyable if you've read The Wild Dark first.
Okay.
But like I've had people start with Hallowed Oblivion and then go Wild Dark. So it's, dealer's choice.
And then Wild Fall and the other one, they're all standalone.
Yeah, Wild Fall is a direct sequel to The Wild Dark.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is something totally different. This is the from the monster.
Yeah, that's my vampire series.
Mm-hmm.
So
I haven't started this one yet, but yes, I have that one. We had a couple of people in chat I'm gonna say hello to first. Good evening, I guess. Yeah, it's after 8 here. Good evening. Go Kate Beckinsale. That's pretty universal, I think. More quality monsters in the Resident Evil films. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. Hey, what's up, Rick? Rick is from Horror Fiend TV. We all cheer for big bottles of beer. I have water, but I'll cheers you anyway with my ghost face cup. Hey, what's up, Norin? Oh my God, Underworld chat. Hello, everyone. Hi, Norin. Thanks for stopping by. Tasha. Oh, snap. Look at this group.
Hi, Tasha.
Hi, Tasha. Underworld 2. Oh, I didn't click it. There we go. Underworld 2 is still my all-time favorite of the franchise. Yeah, we're actually going to open, Norin, with our rankings in just a second. So those, I'll be curious. I'm going to go last for my rankings. I'm just going to kind of go like in order of the screen. So
we're going to go second.
Huh?
I'm going to go second.
Yeah, are you willing to go first for your rankings for Underworld? She's preparing to.
So mine might be a little bit iffy because I still didn't watch the last one.
Blood Wars? Okay.
I did not watch Blood Wars.
Okay.
I couldn't find it anywhere to stream for free because I'm cheap. But I have seen the other 4. And I did do some research about what the 5th one entails. Sure. So my rankings are 3 is my number 1. Rise of the Lycans is number 1. The first movie is number 2. Underworld 2 is number 3. The Blood Wars, I would assume I'd enjoy it better than number 4 because number 4 was horrendous. So.
Okay. All right. I love Tali's like a news reporter back there with her paper. She's like getting her story.
I wrote it all down. I was like, oh, I remember it. I did my homework. I was like, I can't forget.
All right, what's your rankings?
Okay, so I'm gonna start from 5, from the worst, and go up to the best. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally fine.
Okay, so Evolution for me was the lowest one. That was, I think, with that. It continued from, you know, it continued from the first movie, but they introduced Michael, which wasn't in the first movie, and like I don't know where he came from, and that really kind of threw me for a loop. No, I'm sorry, not Michael. Hold on, Marcus. They introduced Marcus in that one, and he was in the first one, and it kind of threw me for a loop. And then they kind of brought him in. It was really more about like, you know, I just the world building in that one kind of threw me off. After that one, I would say number 4 was more Awakening. I mean, I really liked Awakening. It had a lot of great action. There's a lot of great kills in that one. Mm-hmm. I felt that Awakening kind of changed the story of Underworld because Awakening was so different, especially when it came to there's a lot more of that stuff that you saw in the first story with like her daughter and like the drama and the twisting and everything. So I really liked Awakening in that aspect. Number 3, I put Blood Wars as number 3, just because there were just so many good kills in that movie, and I just I always go for the kills because I'm a slasher fan and I love like blood and the head coming off and things exploding. The more blood, the better. So that one had a lot of that, and it made my slasher heart happy. So Blood Wars was my number 3.
Okay.
Now, number 2 was the Lycan one, the werewolf one. I liked that one a lot. I thought that one was a great one, especially since we got a nice, you know, the side of the werewolves. We got to see all about them, and they really shined in that one. And then number 1 is like my heart. I love number 1.
Yeah.
So that's my ranking in order.
Okay. That is different. I can't believe Evolution is last.
Evolution, I just didn't like that one. I don't know. It didn't hit it for me. I don't know why.
Yeah. So mine is almost identical to Kat's, except for I'm switching 2 of them. So my number 1 is also Rise of the Lycans. I'm anything werewolf is like immediate heart eyes for me. Like, we don't have enough of it. I want so much more with wolves in general. It doesn't matter what variation or kind. I just want more of it. And Rise of the Lycans had some of the best backgrounds done to me in the best way, as far as like how the story moves, the flow of it all, the way it all comes together. I love the fight scenes and the kills, and that are really good as well. But just the getting to see the other variations of the Lycans, that one's like my number 1. That is like on a constant rewatch for me. I think I own the first 3 on physical media, which I'm not super into. So that kind of gives an indication of like how much I like them. My second one is Evolution. I absolutely loved Evolution, mostly because I liked the concept of, you know, a wolf, in the way that they've got the brothers story. I was kind of like, okay, I guess I was okay with that. But for me, it was more about the way this all came together, like full circle, with like the addition of like, oh, this is why Celine's family was murdered. And this is why, like, all of those things coming together. I really loved. And I loved William. I loved the concept of William. He's stuck in this permanent state as this wolf, and he's been locked away. And there's that scene, you know, when they first open the thing, and he like lunges out. That's like one of my favorite shots in the entire
franchise. That is a great shot.
It's so good. Like, it just was so good. This was like scary werewolf like film. Like, it was just like the monstrous side of it all. I loved it so much. Evolution is definitely like up there, and it's really close to being my first favorite. I love that one. And then my 3 is the original. Obviously, like, it has to have a special place. There's none of the other ones exist without it. And it was just really well done. The dark, the blue tint, like the monsters, everything was just really well done. And my 4 is Blood Wars. I actually liked Blood Wars way more than I liked Awakening. So we seem to all have that in common. I liked the craziness with like the like underground Lycans that looked like a weird rats. Like, I just liked everything about that one was a lot of fun for me. And I hated Awakening. I rewatched it, and I didn't hate it as much as I did the very first time I ever watched it. But it's just, I think it added so many things that didn't need to be there. And then they essentially removed a majority of it for the final film because the daughter's gone again. We finally get like closure on the Michael situation.
Right.
And it just, these weird, like, I just hated like what they tried to do to connect it. And then bringing it into like this whole thing of like, oh, like there was this huge purge. I just didn't think the story made a lot of sense. And I felt like they could have probably removed it, adjusted a few things in Blood Wars and left it at that. And it would have been super solid. But I hated Awakening. That was like one of my least favorites. So that was my ranking. I got to scroll back up on these. Tasha's heart faces. Underworld, such a good franchise. Celine rules. This is a good gritty monster franchise. It is gritty. And that's the thing is like vampires and werewolves are so romanticized, even in the few things that werewolves exist in. Like, I hate to state the obvious one, right? But Twilight obviously changed the game for a lot of that stuff. But like this was like this much darker, completely different version of werewolves and vampires than we had seen in a long time.
I feel that this movie franchise was like I agree with you. It was a really fresh take on vampires and werewolves because you don't see the werewolves like you see them in this movie. And there was a lot of CGI in this movie, but still they were these big, huge monsters and they were just like brutal. And even the vampires, they were kind of like they were gritty and they were kind of like dark. Especially was it Victor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the first one where he comes back and he's like, he looks like a reptile.
Crazy looking.
Yeah, makeup was incredible in that first movie.
He had that stuff hanging out of him. It looked like Twizzlers or something.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think like that's the thing is like the first one is a great mix of CGI and practical. It's a mix of the two. And then the more the franchise moved on, they kind of went away from the practical and kind of stuck more with the CGI, which some of it hasn't aged that great. But I think the first three still look really good. Even though
I noticed that because I'm so into like I said, I'm so into slasher that I noticed the practical blood and the CGI blood when I was rewatching them. I noticed the difference. But even though I didn't care, the kills there were some good kills.
Yeah.
I really didn't care. I was like, forget this.
Tasha, you sound like me with the Exorcist. I just did an Exorcist live and I was getting prepared for that. And I was like, there are how many Exorcist movies? I had no idea there were that many. Okay, Norin's ranking. Where does it at? Here it is. 2 is number 1. Underworld, then Underworld, then Rise of the Lycans. 4 would be Blood Wars, and Underworld 4 is the bottom. It's complete trash. Yeah, I didn't like that one. I like part 3 with Rona Mitra. Rona Mitra, there literally is not another human being on this planet that could have played that role that well, I think.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so this was Blood Wars was a first watch for me because I had seen 4 when it first came out and I hated it. And I never went back to it. And when I heard there was another one, I was like, nope, 4 was enough. I've like keeping it's a trilogy as far as I'm concerned. But I am glad that I went back and watched it. Hopefully it'll be streaming so you can see it, Kat. Because what I ended up doing was I signed up for Stars just long enough to watch that movie. And then I canceled it.
Gotcha.
That was the only way to watch it.
Yeah. I
was obsessed.
Yeah.
I have the bad habit of starting a subscription, and then doing that. Oh, it's free for 7 days. And then I don't do what I need to do in that 7 days. And then it just starts billing me. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I've got several right now. And I can't like justify another one.
Too risky. Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. I had to set reminders in my phone to cancel in those time frames, whatever they are. And then I have throwaway emails that I use to do that with as well, so that I don't have like
Halloween Ends. I subscribed to Peacock just to watch Halloween Ends, and then I forgot that I had Peacock. I'm paying for Peacock.
That is one of the ones currently.
Yep. Yeah. And I keep going back and forth. I don't know how y'all feel about this, but so like I have Shudder religiously. Like I use Shudder all the time, but I cannot seem to like pull the trigger on getting Screambox because I'm like, I already have like one horror psychological like streaming service. I'm not really sure that I want to pay for like a second one.
What do you use? What do you use other than Shudder?
That's the only one. Oh, well, I mean, I have everything else, literally. I just don't have Screambox. But I see a lot of people posting stuff that's on Screambox, but I don't have it.
I don't have Screambox. I use Tubi and I use Shudder. I just hate the commercials on Tubi. It's just so annoying. So if the movie is anywhere else, I'll watch it, and if not, then I'll watch it on Tubi.
Yeah,
because Tubi's full of commercials.
Yeah, it is a lot of commercials on Tubi. And then I learned recently, if you watch something on I think it's Peacock. If it's on Peacock and Tubi, I'll watch it on Peacock because at least Peacock you can get all the ads out of the way at the beginning. If you have like the $5 version, and then it's ad free the rest of the movie.
Oh,
so I can like start it, go do whatever I'm going to do, and then come back in time to watch the movie, and it doesn't get interrupted because Tubi's like a 3-4 hour commitment.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm gonna hit these up really quick and then we'll jump back in. Blade and Underworld are great vampire universes. Yeah, I'm all about monster vampires. I prefer that to the original. Where I was like, hey Hughes, Rise of the Lycans, huge fan. Tally with the pumpkin head shirt.
Love this movie.
Yeah. Kate Beckinsale deserved more action roles. Yeah, she's good. She's pretty talented in general. Rona Mitra was awesome. Low-key thought it was Beckinsale still at first saw. So I don't know who knows this other than me, but in the original Underworld, the whole thing was like Victor spared Celine because she looks so much like his daughter. But then they had like a redhead or like a brown redhead like play it, and I was like, I mean, okay, fine, whatever. So now if you get a newer version of that film, if you rent a newer version, if you watch it on TV, that scene has now been replaced with the scene from Rise of the Lycans, where it's Rona Mitra instead of whoever it was that played that role originally, which I thought was pretty cool and smart because she looks exactly like Kate Beckinsale. Love the Flying Vampire for 2, and I like parts 3 and 1. Yeah, I think most people. Hi. I think the first 3 are the most solid of the franchise. Yeah. So I don't like.
I think 4 was more like, in my opinion, they came back. They tried to come back and like kind of refresh that franchise. Like they did 3, they waited all these years, and then let's bring Kate Beckinsale back and do it a 4th. And I think they kind of tried to like revive it, something that like should have just ended at 3. And I don't know if they did a good job at it, but
no. I don't like the kid storylines anywhere. Yes. I don't like them anywhere. Kids exist. I have one. I love mine. I don't want them in my stories. Like, I don't want them in my zombie stories. I don't want them in my monster movies. Like, stop it.
Like when they die in the stories.
Yeah.
I have kids and I like when they die in the stories.
That is one of my biggest peeves, is just having the kid that is like the savior role, it drives me nuts.
Yeah. And it's not a strong trope to begin with. And it's so overdone. And I also hate, this is like, maybe this is nitpicky, maybe it's not, but I think like the makeup for her was like, I hated it. I hated the way she looked. I was like, what is this? Because I didn't like the way they changed Michael's makeup in the second one. I thought it looked like a cartoon. That was like my only complaint about 2 was like, why? It was perfect. Like, it looked absolutely stunning in the first one. He looked weird. He looked scary. I was there for it. And then they made him like super blue in the sequel. And I was like, why does he look like that? And then they did the same thing with the daughter. I'm like, well, at least we know she's his, I guess. I didn't like that part. I thought that was not.
Speaking of Michael, I was very upset they killed him off, by the way. I don't know if we're there, but I was very upset over that. I felt that maybe they could have, and this is my own opinion, that they could have made Michael and Celine like the stars of that franchise and like kind of built them. Mm-hmm. And I don't like how they built him in the first one. And they kind of like, you barely see him and then you barely see him and then he dies. And I'm like, they really could have done something with Michael, I felt. And so that's my Michael rant.
Well, he didn't have much of a like history or anything.
They could have given him one because he was in the first one. He was, the chosen human.
Yeah.
Yeah. I you know what I think, and this is what it boils down to, because I think different people did the 4th and 5th movie, if I'm not mistaken. Really? But I think what it honest to God boils down to is they couldn't get Scott Speedman to come back, they couldn't get him to come back. So what they did was they gave us these little like breadcrumbs of hope of like, oh, we're gonna finally get Michael, and it ended up like it felt like such a like big bout of disappointment, because it was like, you told us that he was like still alive and around, but even though I knew in my mind that wouldn't have made sense anyway, because he wouldn't have stayed away. If he had been alive, they would have found each other again. But it was one of those things where like, so they have the look-alike, they fill in the scenes from the other two movies where they just reuse clips, which they also did with Amelia. I'll get to that eventually. Right, and like, I hated that. And then to make Marius, however they say his name, like the one that killed him, I was like, for what reason? Like, why?
Right. I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah, they could have left that whole thing alone. And like you said, left the two as because it was weird having a continuation of, oh my God, that was my cat. That scared me. There's like, they had like this whole story continuation based off a character that was like not around anymore. It was weird. I didn't like it. Did not like it at all. Yeah. I'm excited about this one too. Glad the Dracula Voyage is coming out. Yeah, that actually looks really good and looks like it's going back to some pretty good roots. I would love to see more bad vampires. I love bad vampires. Monstrous ones. One of the other things I did think was kind of a strength for the vampires in Underworld is I like the way they built up the hierarchies, because you kind of had like a little bit of everything. You had like the untouchable elders. You had the party ones with their long cigarette sticks and their big fancy cups. But then you had like the people who did the dirty work, right? Like the death dealers and the people more involved in that stuff. And I liked that, because I hate when like vampire stories are like one dimensional, when it's like, they're just like pretty and useless. Like, I don't like that. So I thought that was another strength for the vampires in this one.
Yeah,
me too.
And then I like the Lycans in general because I like wolves. That was my only one of my biggest complaints with 4, and really a little bit of a complaint with 5 too, is there wasn't enough of them. Like, we finally got some really good Lycan shots at the end of Blood Wars, but it took forever to get there. And in between, there really wasn't that many of them, and their transformations and the way they evolved and stuff was like some of my favorite parts of Underworld. So I was kind of disappointed we didn't get more of them.
I loved the when you saw the wolves transform. That was just great. I really loved that. And also the way they just killed people, and they used their guns and whips, and they had these magic bullets, and they weren't really relying on traditional biting and stuff. Like, it was just like this fighting, and it was just awesome. Yeah. Although the bullets we saw in the beginning of Underworld, the blue bullets, like, we see the other bullets again, but we don't really see those ever again after the beginning of the movie when they discover them. And I've always wondered what happened to them. It's like they have these awesome bullets that are going to kill the vampires, and then you never see them again. Like
the ultraviolet.
Yes. Yeah. You saw them right in the beginning. I never saw them again. It's like, what happened? These were like some awesome weapons.
As far as them using it. Yeah, because in 2, it leads us back to 10, whatever his name is. And he was the one who was like trading with the Lycans, and he's where those ultraviolet bullets came from. He was like making them.
Right.
And then I don't feel like they also didn't use the silver rounds again either, though. The ones that bled.
I saw it a second time was it the end of the first movie? I didn't see it in the second, but the end of the first. But then those bullets just disappeared. And I thought they were such great bullets because the blue ones killed the vampires and the other one killed the werewolves. It would have been nice to have seen them somewhere in the franchise, because they just, you shoot this thing and the vampire like turns blue and just kind of like disintegrates. And it was just, it would have been just awesome to see it. But literally one time.
I wonder if they felt that they were too OP, like they were just too overpowered. So they were just like, okay, we're just going to kind of like pull back from this.
Maybe.
But they didn't do it in a very great way.
No.
But that opening scene in the subway, like where you first see that transformation, that fight, that's one of my favorite scenes from the entire franchise.
Yeah, mine too. Even Kate Beckinsale's moves, her guns, and just walking around.
Man, when Reyes turns and he goes bloods, that's like you're like in it. You're like, okay, let's go. I'm ready for whatever's about to happen. His shrug off of his jacket and like, oh, so good. So good. He's one of my favorite characters. Like, I know we don't really get much of him again until, Rise of the Lycans, but
Right.
when I went to see Rise of the Lycans, I was like so pumped when we got to go back and see like his
Mhm.
origin story of like not only when he became the way that he was, but like his bond, his commitment, his connection, loyalty to Lucian. I was like, oh, like that's one of my favorite parts of Rise of the Lycans was like going back and seeing that character because they did make it seem like he was really important, but there wasn't
Well,
like too much
he
done with
was
him.
he was one of the writers. I'm pretty sure.
Was he?
Was he?
Was
I
he?
didn't know that.
That's very
Yeah,
cool.
I'm
I didn't
pretty
know that.
sure.
Ah, that's cool. I had no
That is cool. I
idea.
didn't know that.
Yeah, he's great. I loved his
Mhm.
character. Like he just was like, when we get to see because obviously like Rise of Lycans, we get to see a lot more of him. I don't know. I really liked him. But that opening scene, I'm with you. Like they're in the subway, and I remember seeing this movie for the first time, having no idea just how much action was going to be a part of the storyline and what that was going to look like being balanced with like a monster movie because that's essentially what they are at their core.
Right.
And but like it's done so well that it just keeps you engaged even in the films that you don't like. Like even though I didn't like Awakening, I'm paying attention when there's fight scenes going on.
But
Like
Awakening brought back pieces of the first one, even like with the setup and the atmosphere, and like that's why I ranked Awakening a little higher than the other. It felt like the first one came back, and I really liked the first one so much. But you saw that setup in Awakening as well. They brought it back, which I liked.
Yeah.
The mansion. I love the vampire mansion in the movie too.
Yeah. So on that, what is this city like that they all live in? It's like it's insanely beautiful and dark and amazing, but it's also just kind of like, where is this in the world?
Love it.
Like
Yeah.
it's gorgeous.
It is.
And I want it to be real.
Me too.
But I don't know if it is. Very
Yeah.
European.
Well, because of all the rain and the darkness, I just immediately go to Seattle. Like I'm just like, it's probably Seattle.
Oh,
Isn't
boy.
that what Seattle
Boy.
looks like? Like 365. Like it just always
think-
looks gloomy and rainy.
It's a little more gothic than
Fair
Seattle.
Fair enough. It's like exists in its own plane. It's not even part of our world. It's like its own thing, completely separate.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. The locations, the set pieces, like
The costumes.
the costumes.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I love like Kate's outfits. I just like the leather and like even the werewolves, all the vampires. They all had great costumes.
Yeah.
And they were really smart. They went, black and dark reds for vampires and the earthy dark tones for the wolves. Because the wolves a lot of times are Lycans are in like browns, muted grays. Like there's like I don't think the people who come up with this stuff get enough credit because it absolutely separates. Like when you're looking at these characters, you're thinking and feeling different things strictly because of how they look. Like it matters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's well done.
It definitely drove home more of that, like vampires are the upper echelon. They have all these really sleek, beautiful clothes, and then your Lycans are the working class, like slaves for the vampires. So they're underground, downtrodden, wearing ripped clothing, torn stuff. Like it was really well done. Just there was a lot of thought behind it. That then carried through the next few movies really well.
Yeah. I mean, even when you're looking at where the locations of the two end up. So like, if you think about it in terms of like the safe rooms or the safe houses, whatever you want to call them, that the vampires have, they're all like super high tech, stunning, very modern. And then when Reyes goes to get the stuff pulled out of them, they're like in a meat basement somewhere with like that horrible, like cheap plastic sheet stuff like coming down. And you're pretty sure the utensils haven't been washed.
That ship. The ship they had, that was like so high class. And then the bodies ended up in the ship. The morgue was on the ship. That was a very high tech ship.
Yeah. It's interesting. And then it's like, and actually I will say that was actually one of the things that I started to dislike as we moved into 4 and 5 was I was like, damn, I felt like we finally had overcome Like it's like I hated that the vampires were always on the top because the Lycans were my favorite characters. Like their stories were the ones other than Selene, because I mean she's a sympathizer, right? She's not like up there with the other vampires that are like ugh Lycan scum, but like she like other than her, like I just felt like it would have been really nice for the Lycans to finally get like a break, and they never get one. Like not in any film at all. They never get a break.
That would have been a twist. That would have been a great twist.
It would have.
100%
would have.
That would have also been a way, I think, to still keep everything as far as like making it feel like an Underworld film. Like if you had 4 being that, where it's more like the Lycans coming up and being the ones in power and not being the ones that are going and hiding and living like weird rat things, like all of that stuff, like because we just saw, because even though 3 is technically a prequel, we just saw everything that they went through, and now we're like, damn, they've been going through this for how long, and now they're doing the same. They're like living in the sewers, basically. Like they looked a bit like almost like hairless dogs, like the poor things.
Right. That scene in the village where they just like killed them all, and you see like all these like there's all these dogs, just like dead dog lying around, and that was another thing that I was like, well, don't people notice that all these like dogs are there? But yeah, that was also great. I love that medieval part when they went backwards and they told us how they came about and how the werewolves came and all that. That was great.
Yeah, and I like that there's stages to, like, the Lycans have an evolution, because they, there's, William, I always almost I keep wanting to call him Marcus. William couldn't change back at all. Once he was what he was, that was it. There was no salvation for him, no control. And that was, obviously in that movie, in Evolution, that's when we get like the argument of like, you can't control him. We've got to do something. We've got to do it. But they know that they can't kill him, because then it's like a trickle down effect and it'll wipe everybody out. But it was like, then you get the ones that could only change at certain times. And then you get the ones that Lucian makes, if I'm saying this correctly, I think I am, that can change at will, or they learn to change at will.
Right.
And I love that there's like stages to that as they're evolving, they're changing, they're adapting. I thought that was so good. And they made them look different at every stage of whatever part of the story they fit in, because the original ones that attacked them in the woods when in Rise of the Lycans, like towards the very beginning of the film, they look more like they're like on all fours, and they just look very different. They look more animal than the others do. And so I like that there's like stages, like they actually evolved and they changed and they turned into other things as the story changed. I really liked that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I know Tali said this earlier before I hit record. You've got favorite kills for every movie.
I have favorite kills for well, not for every movie. I just have favorite kills. Kills I liked. I think I
kills in general
too. So I think most of my kills are in actually Blood Wars. That I think there may be one in Lycan that I like, maybe one in Awakening, 2 in Lycans. But yeah, like one of my very favorite kills is where Selene pulls out. Was it the spinal cord? Was it Marcus's spinal cord?
It's Marius.
Right, and she just pulls it out and puts her arm and rips it out. She's holding
totally Predator. Thing. Yeah, she just goes full Predator and just rips out his spinal.
I love that kill. That was one of my favorite kills.
Yeah.
The other, I mean, I just also love the kill in where Selena's tossed in the garage, and she kind of like, I mean, I think this was in was this in Blood Wars where she rips the guy's head right off? God, I forgot where the scene was. It might be in Blood Wars.
I'm drawing a blank on that one. I don't remember.
I have to go back and think where.
There's a lot of heads and jaw killings throughout the franchise.
Yes, right.
There's a bunch of them. So I was trying to think.
There is. There's one in the Lycans too, in the van, where he literally, like, they just rip, like with the bare hands, they just rip the guy in half and kind of just.
That was one of my favorites too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite is when Michael kills William. When he just, I mean,
that scene made me so upset.
And all his blue glory, but like he just like takes it, and don't get me wrong, I really love William. Like I like his wolf design and everything was so perfect. But in no way would it have made sense for him to not be killed, right? And so, but when he just goes up to him, and you think like they've been fighting, and there's all these scenes. It's so chaotic. There's so much going on, and then he just grabs both pieces of his snout and just snaps them off. And I was like, oh, like that one probably got the most reaction out of me from any kill in the series. Period. Like that one got the most. Like I was upset, but I loved it at the same time.
That scene upset me. This is a mental block. It was a good kill, though. It definitely was.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love that. I think it's because it's so brutal and intimate to kill somebody by ripping their jaw apart. Like, right. I don't know. I just thought, and I think what's true, the other reason I really love it is because I think it just looked so good. Like, it was such a convincing thing to see that I was like, that absolutely happened in real life. Like, there's just something about it that looked real to me. I don't know. That's my favorite. That's like my favorite kill in the entire franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite or favorites? You can do favorites
if you kill in the first
if you have multiples.
So I'm not going to go for like the most gruesome stuff. But I think one of my favorites is from the first movie, and it's actually Victor.
That's a good one.
And it's the killing the, I'm not going to get the character's name. The scientist.
The lichen
scientist. Yeah. And he just like punches him, and like his jaw kind of unhinges.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that fast, slow motion, weird, like, and it's done. And he just falls and dead. And that was kind of like a
that was a
moment for me. Because you're like, yeah, okay, now Victor is ready to go kill some people. And he's mad. And I really liked that one. Just, it was quick and scary.
And super vital to part 2, though, because the scientist's blood getting into Marcus's chamber was how he knew all of the stuff that had happened.
Right.
Leading up to that with what's the other, all of the main male leads, most of them anyway, have the same part and wave hump in their hair, and they're all dark haired. You've got like Craven, you've got Michael, Marius. I'm like, these are literally the same people. Like, but anyway, I digress. But
Craven.
But like, so yeah, that was how he learned about, Craven going behind the vampire's back and making deal with the lichens and all of that stuff. Like that's a very important kill, because it literally sets the stage for the entire story of the second film.
It does.
Yeah. I like the one where the werewolf got cut in half, and I know they're not called werewolves. Sorry, lichens. When the lichen got cut in half in Blood Wars, that one was really good too, because that was one of the ones that was like
right. He ripped her with his bare hands, right?
And he's just like, I don't know. I really like that. I thought that one was really good too. I like kind of the gruesome ones, I guess, huh? I was trying to think.
I also like in Rise of Lycans where she turns to ash. Was that Rise of Lycans where she turns to ash right in front of him?
Yeah,
that's like that broke my. You know what's ridiculous? We knew that's gonna happen. We knew, because we've already seen the other movies.
We did. I just like watched them disintegrate.
Yeah, that was like, God, that was such a good movie.
Rise of Lycans.
Yeah, that's the movie that somebody could watch without seeing any of the other films, and it would just be a like beautiful supernatural horror romance.
You're right.
Yeah,
it was so good.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's like I watch the only other movie that's ever done that to me where I like know and I forgot, and then I get in the moment, I'm like, I'm so angry with myself. I'm like, you got sucked in and you forgot. Is Moulin Rouge. They tell you the beginning of the movie, everything that happens, and you get so invested in the story at the end of it, you're like, wait, what? That's how I felt with this. That's how I felt when she tells Victor that she's pregnant. That's how I felt when they tied her up. I was like, well, they're going to be fine because he's going to get her out of there. gonna like go live happily ever after with their little hybrid baby, knowing that's not what happens. And it like I was devastated. It was crazy to think about it, you know, when you see the first movie and you get the glimpses of that scene, but to watch all of the stuff that led up to that, like my heart, like it was so rough. It was so painful to watch that scene, knowing everything else.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I love Rise of the Lycans. That's definitely my favorite. Okay, so we'll start with favorite character or characters. If you have like a top one, that's kind of what I
Celine's my favorite character.
Celine is your favorite?
Yes, she's my favorite. She's the reason why I watched 4 and 5 after 3. She's the only reason why I watched the rest of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And she had a different look in
I
4 and 5. They changed her. They upgraded her hair. She had that white stripe, and she had her eyes and
the white stripe. I was like, oh, we're rogue now. Got it. Okay, cool. We
right.
died in the ice. Now we are one with the ice.
That's right.
Oh, I did. I laughed so hard when she came in with the blonde hair or the whitish hair. I was like, I thought that part was cool. I know she did look cool. There's no denying she
looked different.
She looks awesome regardless. But I was just like,
her moves, her fighting, her stance. She's my favorite. But she's probably a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah. Is Celine your favorite too, Kat?
Yes, I really like Celine. And Lucien is another one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And weirdly, Craven is also another favorite.
I like Craven too.
Like what a fantastic
just such a
villain character with some serious Gaston vibes. Like he was well done.
That's so great.
Oh, I never thought about it like that. That changes everything. Like
he was manipulative. He was trying to get Celine, but he had this side thing where he's like stabbing everyone in the back. He was so great. I was like,
yeah, I think I really like Craven too. I think Craven is also like probably one of the more realistic villains, like this type of mentality of like doing anything and everything you can to get ahead, like no matter if it's like betraying your entire coven, your entire species of like you're just willing to do all of this stuff to like get ahead. And then you're like, okay, I know you know all of that about me, but like I still would like it if you would love me. Like it's
right. He was just so hilarious.
It's just like, oh God, he's one of my favorites too. My favorite character is Lucien. I think Lucien has Celine's story is really emotional and sad, especially when we get more into like when she now understands like the bigger picture of like when her family was murdered and all of that stuff, which I don't know if how much of this they had written ahead of time, but the way that like literally flows into the original, it just kept everything like so like cohesive, and it was just so well done. Right. But like her story and her background and her development as we move on is like all really, really well done. But I think the character that I loved the most is Lucien, because I think he just was so like, he had a great backstory and all that stuff too, but there's just something about the way he portrays that role of like fighting for something that you love and believe in. Like there's just something different about the way he portrays that as we get to know him more specifically in thinking of seeing Rise of the Lycans, that Lucien, and then going back and seeing Underworld and tying the two together, because they're two different pieces of the Lucien puzzle. Yeah. And I just he's like my favorite. And so he has some of the coolest scenes. Like one of the scenes that I love of him, I feel like I just talked about this, maybe on a different conversation, but was, you know, when Celine shoots him right when he's in front of the elevator, and he like that like music plays and he's like moving and all the bullets are coming out. It's just like he just had some of the coolest. He had such a presence when he was there. You paid attention. Like if I was a Lycan, I'd 100% be like, sure, whatever you say. Like I don't. There was no question. He was my favorite.
He was the werewolf presence.
Yeah.
And like I already said, I also really like Michael. Like I said, I really wished, I don't know, they would have done more with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons Michael's probably not my favorite anymore. It's just because I felt like I lost all the connection I had to him once.
We did. we did. Definitely did.
Lucian is my favorite. I haven't seen Blood Wars, and now I feel like I'll need to rewatch them all. Yeah, you should. Although, if your luck is like mine, they won't be streaming anywhere because that's how it goes. When you want to watch something like this, like a whole franchise, you'll only be able to find.
Sometimes I find full movies on YouTube. Sometimes you can watch full movies on YouTube. I do that too sometimes.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't need to rewatch 1 through 3, so I didn't. I rented Awakening, which was painful, but I did. I was like, no, I need to rewatch it. There's no way I'm going to be able to really talk about it because I only saw it once. And then, like I said, I did the free trial or whatever to see to watch Blood Wars because I definitely wasn't paying to watch it. I was too scared to commit to that, so I didn't. But
yeah. What did you watch them on again? What did you?
Oh, so I rented Awakening. I have physical copies of 1 through 3, but I didn't need to rewatch them because I've seen them a million times. So I just rewatched Awakening, which I rented on Amazon, and then I did the Stars 7-day trial to watch Blood Wars because there was no way in hell I was paying for it. Like, no way.
I heard whispers there might be a 6th movie, but I don't know how true that is. But they're whispers. I've just heard that from. I don't remember where I heard it from.
It better not be about any of the same people. You know what? I will say
it's not gonna be worth it.
Starring Michael.
Yeah, I was just singing the same thing. I was like, Scott Speedman was like, all right, fine. And now we're gonna get another Michael movie. Really dead.
No.
That would annoy the hell out of me.
That'd be really bad if they did that. I don't think I would watch it though.
No, I think there's enough lore and enough characters that we've already met. They could do all kinds of stuff with it. I will tell you, I didn't really Amelia is sort of presented as this this big badass, right? She's but when we first get introduced to her, we don't actually know that she's a badass. She's just got the cool jewelry and the makeup and the pretty hair and the dress. And we're like, oh, okay, elder. Yeah, that sounds about right. But then we see her in 2 with her fancy fighting hat. And it's like, oh, okay, so she can do some things. And we still don't really see that much, though. She's just, kind of slicing and dicing as they're trying to go through the village or whatever. And she seems really cruel and we don't really know that much about her. But then we get this washover stuff with Amelia in Blood Wars. Because we get the tie back in, and I was like, oh, I think they should have left it alone. I didn't really like that part. And I hated the scene when, what is his name? What's the son's name? The guy that's in David. When David drinks her blood. It's David, right? I think that's right.
Yes.
When he drinks her blood, and it's the scenes from all the other movies, I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. I hate it. It made me so mad. And so, but I say all that to say, I would love to see more of her. I would love to see more of some of these other elders, these other bigger players that we didn't really get that much access to throughout the rest of the franchise. I'm not Victor, but everybody else.
I mean, even with the movies that weren't great, and even some of them that had the plot holes, and some of them that just. The one thing that this franchise did have with all of the movies is the world building, because they would go from modern times to medieval times to, and they would go back and forth in the timelines, and they really built out the stories really well, and they put in the origin stories really well in there, and they kind of moved with the first one, it was more modern, and they went back, and there was almost a prelude, and then they did the werewolves, and then the 4 kind of tied it in, and I think they did a really good job in kind of weaving everything together and building that. So even though some of them weren't great, I will give them that. They did a really good job with that world building and that story and that fantasy aspect of it, which is why I think that this franchise is so unique to a lot of the other franchises with the werewolves and the vampires. They do get credit for that.
No, all of their they have a lot of the tropes, but they flesh them out with such details that they didn't feel like tropes when you're watching and experiencing them.
That's right.
It was, obviously it's a wolf and bat fighting, which we see all the time, but it was done in such a way that you were so invested in the stories and the mythos of how they were the way they were and their hierarchies and where all these different types of lichens came from and stuff, that you don't really care that it is oversimplified in that way, because it's not, there's actually layers to it.
No, that's right.
And Rise of the Lycans, like, has got to be the most successful prequel I have ever seen in my life.
Yes, I really love that one. Like, between all the movies, 3 is great. I love 3 so much. 3 is one of the best ones in that franchise because of the werewolves. I agree with you. It is. It's those 2 are the highest for me. Were 1 and 3. And I'm not a vampire person per se. Like, I prefer werewolves over vampires. Like, if I'm going to watch the movies, read the books, like, I prefer the werewolves. But this movie wasn't even about me picking, because, the vampires in this movie, which side. I just loved the story. I just got so into everything and the fighting and it was just so great. And it was like, who cares? I care. It's a vampire movie. It's fine. It's a creature feature. It's a creature movie.
It is. It is. I saw there's a TikTok I stitched, like, it's been many moons ago, pun not intended. It was like talking about, I guess there had been people who were arguing that, like, Underworld is not a horror franchise because it is so action oriented. And I'm like, yeah, but, like, at their core, they're creature features.
Yeah.
They're monster movies. Like, what do you mean they're not horror? I think that's weird. It's like those people who are like, they always come up like this time of year and they're like, Jaws isn't a horror movie. I'm like, go back to your cave. You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, those are like the really, like, people that are like I told you earlier, like, I'm really not a CGI person. I really, like, sure. I can pick out the CGI in the movie in 10 seconds, and I don't always watch movies with CGI because I don't know. I like practical effects, and when I rewatched them all, I actually could pinpoint the practical blood versus the CGI blood. And like I said, I didn't let it bother me because I just love this franchise so much. I'm like, I'm just gonna overlook it. But yeah, I mean, there are people that don't think this is a horror franchise. They think it's an action or dark fantasy franchise, more like a dark with like horror aspects.
I can see that, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's people's the hardcore horror people will not think this is a horror franchise.
Mm-hmm. The gatekeepers of horror.
Even though it is kills and everything.
Yeah. The gatekeepers. You're not a horror fan if you haven't seen this. You're not a horror
That's
fan.
Right.
This movie.
That's right. But it is a horror movie. It is a horror movie. It has all of the pieces. It has the blood and the killing and the dark story and the creature feature and everything.
Yeah, it's just got subgenres in it.
I just think this franchise was, and I don't know, I might get attacked, but I just feel that this franchise was the reason why 1, 2, and 3 were so good. One, just when one came out, one blew it out of the ballpark. Everyone saw one. One was the hottest movie.
Nothing like it.
I think it's because of the time that it came out and the time period that it came out. That's when everybody was, I mean, Evanescence was hot back then. There was a lot of like, I mean, I remember that was just the period. And
that's so true.
Was, and it just hit at the right time. And I think that's kind of like,
God, what was it, 2003?
Now, and you've never seen them, you're like, what is this?
I was in high school, man.
I don't want to see it.
Why would you even bring that up, Tali?
Hey, I was very into that back then. I was very into that back then. But like, I think it's just the time period of now. People now that haven't seen it. I think you had to grow up with it, like we did. Like, get to see it when it was there to really appreciate it. I think if you didn't, you might be more of like that gatekeeper that's like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah. Well,
Twilight. Same with all those movies.
Yeah. Well, okay, but Twilight, just so we're clear, Twilight is not horror. Just in case anyone was questioning.
No, it's not.
Being able to say that.
No, it's not.
No. Yeah, I think it's interesting the way people decide what other people are allowed to categorize stuff as, even though I just did it. And it's like one of those things, like, I did this like my top 5 werewolf movie picks like 8-9 months ago. I did this video, and I still get people who come and comment on it, and they're like, how come this isn't on your list? And this movie that you picked sucks.
They did it to me on Twitter. I'm like, go away.
I'm like, that's enough. I didn't ask if what you thought of my picks. I asked what your picks were. Like, but like, so one of my top 5 picks is Ginger Snaps. And it's like one of the comments I got recently was like, Ginger Snaps is so overrated. Everyone talks about that. And I'm like, you're really just proving my point, because you know why people talk about it? Because it's a great movie. Like, that's why people talk about it. So anyway, it's so interesting.
See, that didn't make my werewolf list, my top 10 werewolf list. I haven't even seen that. I have a top 10. That's not even one of them.
Ginger Snaps? Oh, it's so good.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
Have you seen Jennifer's Body?
Yes, I like that movie.
Then you'll love Ginger Snaps because it's the same movie, but it was done first.
Oh.
Not the same. They're different monsters. But anyway, you'll see. You gotta watch it. It's good.
Okay.
Ginger Snaps is super good.
Like,
Especially if you like wolves.
I just think that I think that people now wouldn't appreciate Underworld. I think we do. Because we saw it back when it came out.
Yeah.
It's the era. It's the time it came out.
The height of awkward high school.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I used to think that if I could dress however I wanted to, not anymore, because now I'm lazy and in a different stage of life. But back then when I cared about my appearance, I was I used to think that if I could dress any kind of way, it would be like Celine. I would just be I just look like someone that you would not want to mess with, on any level. You just see me and be like, oh, never mind. And go the other direction. That's usually how I feel in social circumstances. I'm don't even so I used to between that and the way she looked in Van Helsing, I loved it so much. And I think you're right. I hadn't even really thought about the connection, but I think you're right. Early high school, this was early 2000s, and it still held on to 90s grunge. There's moments between the music and the atmosphere and that blue
the crow.
color,
Remember, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. That stuff was big back then, and I think that movie really capitalizes that period. And I feel I just think that you have to have had a connection to that, time period to really appreciate this franchise. I think if you showed someone new in their 20s or even teens, 18, 19, to watch, they're what's that? It's so cheesy. It's so corny. It's lame. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't really thought about it like that.
I think it was just during its during its time period. I think it for example, the Twilight books when they came out, I loved them, but that was back when they came out. I will not read them now for the sheer point that I know that if I read them now, I wouldn't like them, and I don't want to. This might sound weird, but I don't want to I remember them as books I loved, and I know that if I read them now and I don't love them, that will hurt that memory.
Yeah.
Does that mean of that warmth that I used to love them? But there's just certain things that don't pass through the am I explaining that right?
Yeah. No, I think the movies ruined that franchise for me because I was reading the books, before they were cool, as
me too.
But I remember I got to New Moon, and when I got to New Moon, I got to that first gut punching moment, and I was like, I'm never reading one of these books ever again. And I put it down, and I didn't read it for weeks. And then I remember picking it up. I will never forget how I felt reading that book. I picked it up. I skipped to the end. I saw that he came back, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll finish reading. And then I read the rest of the series. But the movies just
I never watched them. I didn't watch them. I've seen
all of them.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I was like, what if the adaptation isn't as good as the book, and then I'm gonna be upset. I didn't watch them. I was like, nope. No, it wasn't good.
Well, I think it just kind of over accentuated the teenness of it. And I wasn't I was a young adult, but I wasn't a teenager. I wasn't in high school when I read these.
I wasn't a teenager either.
High school,
I was an adult.
living on my own,
Me too.
And
as an adult also. I was in my 20s, my early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked.
Underworld is a horror. I think it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
I just think it's a different type of horror movie.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite horror franchises. Of more modern sense. One of my favorite horror franchises. I love talking about it. I love the movies. Most of them. Even 4 I probably will never revisit, but I would rewatch Blood Wars. I thought it was pretty good. The action and stuff I think is even though it's Craven Part 4. I'm telling you, those guys all look the same. I was watching when I was watching Blood Wars, I couldn't get that out of my head. I just kept looking at his swooshy hair, and I was like, this is the same person. It could have been the same actor.
It was the look.
All the same roles. It would have been fun.
It was the look back then. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're comfort movies for me. So, I mean, if I come home from work sometimes and I'll just throw on the first one or the third one,
Yeah.
just because I want to watch something where I don't have to think. That's on
Yep.
my comfort movie list, along with a few other things. But yeah, that's one of them. Those are on there.
Yep. Same.
Yeah. And if it's on TV, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right.
Well,
I don't
watch
really
cable
rewatch
anymore,
the second
but
one. I never rewatched the second one, really.
I love the second one. I'm like, taking it super personal. I love the second one. You know what though? It's interesting, like listening to you talk about like the like slasher, like being so into slashers and like why. It just is like so interesting to like hear other people talk about why movies resonate differently with them, because I like the anything like monstery, like super monstery is gonna be like way up.
Up
Not
there for
super
you.
into slash. I'm a massive Scream fan, but that's like the extent
I
of
like
my
Scream too.
slashers.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
I like Scream too.
Yeah, I'm a massive Scream fan.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I don't know many. See, I don't know many women who like. I mean, I love the corny slashers like Slumber Party Massacre or Mutilated, where they just have like the guy that goes and chases the women and just like stabs. Like, I'll watch that when I get home from work. I was like, as I'm gonna relax, I'm gonna turn on Pieces and watch this guy kill all the women, and they're naked and running around. They just all die. And I mean, I just like watching that. I don't know many women that like to watch that, but
yeah,
no,
they're not my go-to.
I'm very hardcore slasher. Yes, I am.
My favorite subgenre is found footage, but my second
I
under
love
that
that too.
is monsters.
I
Anything
love that.
anything with monsters, anything with especially if it's wolf related. Okay, so I'm gonna do a plug mostly because it totally ties in. When I started reading The Wild Dark by Katherine Silva,
okay.
and I didn't read anything about this book, okay? I had only seen people that I trusted say that they enjoyed it, so it was already on my TBR. So when I finally got it and I started it, I was like, I got like, I don't even know, a couple chapters in, and I had no idea what it was about because I went in completely blind, because I just feel sometimes like that's better. And so I finally was like, no, let me just look at the back and see what it's about. And I get to the description part about the soul wolves, and I was like, oh my God.
Are these books about wolves? These are books about wolves?
They're not about, but they do feature
they feature the wolves.
soul eating
wolves.
I'm excited now. I'm gonna read them. I like
the wolves are important. And so like my point in saying that is like I feel like we just don't have enough stuff like Underworld and stuff like where it's like it takes these like kind of and they're not werewolves in the Wild Dark, but my point is that they're like just taking these creatures, these monsters, any like story around that is like immediately going to have my attention, because I just don't feel like we have enough stuff about wolves specifically, but also like we don't have a lot of like dark vampires. Like, I just started reading Beguiled by Night it's like
by Nicole.
By Nicole.
Eisner.
Eisner. Okay, sorry. Who is an incredibly kind human being. She's fantastic.
That is an insanely beautiful book. Like insanely beautiful.
What's it called?
It's called Beguiled by Night.
Beguiled by Night. Yeah.
Oh, I own that book. I haven't read it yet.
I went and bought both of them. I got both of them.
I have it too.
And I'm just like, oh my God. The cover. Okay, so the cover is beautiful.
Book, right?
Huh?
It's a vampire story, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And it is like I didn't read anything about that one. I just started reading it when I got it in because the cover was gorgeous. The writer was an incredible human being. So I was like, done and done. And then I started reading it because I knew it was about vampires. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. I'm going to read it.
It's there. I have to read it then. It's been sitting on my computer. It's really good.
I want more unique stuff like this though.
Well, I just finished reading Empire of the Vampire, which is 730 pages, but it's such a great vampire story. I mean, I haven't read one as good as that. The world building with that, and it's a dark, gritty vampire. A lot of blood.
Okay.
Gore.
700 pages?
Yeah, 700 pages. You heard 700 pages, like what?
my brain stopped working. I am such a slow reader,
Phenomenal.
such a slow reader.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the idea of like starting anything that's more than like 300 pages,
I get that.
gives me full blown panic. Like
I get that.
700.
But I do the same thing as you, by the way. When I read them, I don't read the synopsis. I just go right in.
Yeah.
Half the time, I don't know what I'm reading. I just read the title and I just start going into it. It's like, oh, it's about this.
Yeah. Yeah. You know the phrase, like, you don't judge a book by its I do. Like, if I like covers of
hate
books.
That phrase.
If I see a cover that I love, I'm probably going to read the book. Like, I can't stay away from it.
No.
I don't know. I really I want more unique stuff like this. I want something that's not just, oh, vampires, sexy blood and nudity, and that's all we get. Like, I want something.
I like dark,
deeper.
gritty vampires. You know who wrote a book about dark, gritty vampires? It's like 100 pages. It's a novella. It's really short. Mm-hmm. Did you read With Teeth by Brian Keene?
No.
It's like 100 pages. It's really short. With Teeth. It's such a great. They're dark.
I love that you made a point to tell me it wasn't
vampires.
700 pages.
You'll like this one. This one's really good.
Yeah.
It was yeah, that's a horror one, and they're really dirty. It's a good book.
If you want like a fun werewolf book, I read I'm totally gonna forget her. Oh no, I do remember her name. Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison.
I own that one. Is it good?
It's good.
Okay, I'll read it.
It's not like, I wouldn't say it's like it's not overly complicated and it's not overly dark, but it's got very much I Am Woman vibes, and the story and the characters is really more like what gets you invested in the wolf part of it. But the the descriptive stuff with like the transformation, all the stuff that ties into the werewolf stuff was just really good. That one is like 300 and something pages, and it only took me like a week to get through, which is, But
I agree with you. We need a book like Underworld that has the vampires and the wolf and the lycan and the wolves, and kind of just like makes them dark and puts them together. That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I like to do that. Those are shiny wolves and vampires.
Yeah.
Start over.
Okay, so I did want to ask this one mostly because I know you want up here because my laptop's warm. Go ahead. My cat is like a toddler.
So is my
He'll jump up when he's ready. My laptop blows out hot air and he gets up here and he lays down. And right now he's staring at me like, you have stuff in my way, lady. Anyway. I wanted to talk about least favorite character. One that just like really just like got like maybe on your nerves, really made you angry, like least favorite character.
I don't think I had one.
No way you don't have one. Really?
I mean, Craven got under my skin, but he wasn't my least favorite character. I don't think I had one.
Do you have one, Kat, that just like got on your nerves or that you hated?
I had one. And in a very like silly way. But I thought he was totally useless.
Who?
And he was a vampire character. He was under Craven's like little, stooges. I think he might have had a name, but I can't remember. Anyway, he had whips, and his big thing was he pulled out his whips and he started doing this. And you're like,
is he the one that did in the tunnel that fought the werewolf with the whip too? He's the one that fought the werewolf in the tunnel with the whip.
Yeah.
And then he died.
He died like right away.
And you're just kind of like, well, look at you. You did nothing. You were pointless.
There you go.
Oh, that's true, because they really did build up the whips. We get to the shot of him on the back when he pulls them off, and he does his little dance, and
like the guy at the rope gym, Like,
yeah, you're right. That was weird because they're always using guns in the movie, and then he's in the tunnel with the werewolf, and he pulls out his whips, and he's like whipping, and I'm like, what is this? What happened to the guns? You're right.
Yeah, and then that was his choice. That was his choice of weapon against
when everyone had guns. You're right.
Scariest werewolf.
Yeah.
You're right.
What an idiot.
That's true. I kind of forgot about it. I know you said, because I think Tali mentioned the thing with the whips earlier, as far as like it looked cool in concept, it just didn't do anything.
It's kind of weird though. It didn't.
Like, he's hitting his cheek. Like, what?
Right. I found it weird because, like I said, they all had guns and they're all like these jumping and Summers jumping, and then he pulls out these whips. And he's fighting this big monster. These whips. Yeah. Like, this doesn't follow the flow of the movie, but okay.
Yeah,
go with it.
I mean, yeah, I think that the whips were cool and concept, but they just weren't executed that great. That's a good point.
No. Somebody really, really wanted them in that scene, and they just
it didn't work. It was
Michelle Pfeiffer was like popping mannequin heads off in one take with her whip. Like, step it up, buddy.
Right? Like, I prefer Kate Beckinsale's. What are those little like discs she threw that kind of like
almost like modified ninja stars.
You're like, no.
Now every time I go back and watch that movie, I'm just gonna picture Gag like this, with like I was just hitting them in the face, like.
You're right.
It was the delay. It was the hit in the delay. Like, it's not doing anything.
Yeah,
not doing anything.
You're right.
Oh,
very silly.
Yeah, they should have had like hooks, and he could have like wrapped them around some necks and yanked them and cut their heads off. That would have been cool.
Yeah, so much opportunity.
Yeah,
it didn't fit. It just didn't fit. It didn't. I don't know. It didn't fit.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. But that's so true. That's so true. My least favorite is the blonde from the first Gab, whatever her name was.
That woman, the one that had the hots for Craven, that was always on top.
The one that he 1,000% was actually sleeping with. But yes, the one that
as he's chasing after Celine because she's not giving him the time of day, right?
She was her entire point was that she just wanted to, get to the top, just like Craven. And so she was going to do whatever she had to do to get there. And then
that line she told Celine where Celine's like, "Why are you helping me?" And she's like, "Well, I'm not helping. I'm helping myself."
Yeah, I'm helping me. Yeah.
Except that, like, she wasn't, right? So she does all of this. She's like sleeping with him. She's like head over heels because she thinks he's going to be the one in charge. And he is like, no, like he didn't like, and then I guess
he wanted Celine's, and Celine's was like, I don't want you.
Yeah.
He was like,
I hate that, like, I hated her character so much.
Who?
She like walks in and she's like, she went to see him, and she's like like she Karen's the moment, right? Because she's like very like, hand on hip, kind of like
trying to like she's kissing his ass to get him to like.
she's very deluded. Like she's chasing something she's never gonna get. She doesn't realize it,
and he's using her. He was using her, and she didn't figure that out.
No, because she's dumb.
Dumb blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I prefer like smarter women in general. Like I feel like what's the oh my god, what's the woman's it's not Samara. Is it Samara, the one from Blood Wars?
Yep. Samara.
So she was awful. Like she's a villain. But she had some things at least worked out. Like she at least had some thoughts, some like, until it didn't work. But like that whole thing, like I feel like if you remove whatever the blonde girl's name is it Gabrielle, Gabe, whatever her name is. Maybe I'm just making that up. But if you remove her from the story, nothing changes. There's plenty of ways around the alerting people, because let's be real. If Craven's keeping this tight watch on Celine, he would have noticed she was gone, whether there was someone to tell him or not. Like, I just feel like those little bitty things that she technically like added to the situation or like helped move forward, you could remove her and it wouldn't change anything.
Sure.
Like Celine would have gotten out when all the power went out, whether she helped her or not. I mean, Celine's a pretty smart character. She's a very strong character. She would have like figured it out to jump out the window on her own. You're right. If you removed her, she probably would. We wouldn't miss.
Same with the whips guy, really.
Yes, very much.
It's too.
I like the idea that the vampires don't, they don't judge based on intelligence. Clearly, they're up to whoever.
They're just so welcome to all kinds of mental walks of life.
People who
They accept everyone. Just, come on.
Yeah, she very much is like she just was so useless. And it's like and she really, really what she represents is like the part like when I was talking earlier about like how I really like how they set up these hierarchies of within the, you've got the people who live such a protected, fabulous life. They don't know anything about, the bigger picture or what everyone's dealing or whatever. They don't know. And so it's like, maybe that's like her tie-in is like, she's like the representative of like the ones that are just there to live their best life and
probably
like look pretty and wear the like, cause she even has the bit where she's like,
where was that scene? Which
like
movie was that from? That scene where where the vampire, he was an elder, but he had like the women flank, the two women, and Celine just walks in and she like pushes them out, or she like, I forgot what was that scene where she like gets rid of them so she can like.
Oh, you're talking about Tennis. What the hell is his name? Tennis.
Oh yeah.
Tennis.
Yes.
Tennis.
Yes.
Whatever his name is. Yeah, he's the one that was making the bullets and trading with. I really liked his character.
He was.
He was very like kind of like whatever. Like he just was kind of, like he's like, you don't scare me. And then she's like, we're gonna have to work on that. And his kind of like demeanor shifted a little bit after that. I really liked his character, but yes, we get the like the vamp music and the big bed and the the little bit of like sexy stuff going on.
And then Celine comes in
she's
her leather
like
and she's
cracking necks.
Right. I love her. If I had like an alter ego, Celine is my like alter personality. She's just great.
Yeah.
Like the strong characters.
She picks up the underwear. She's like, this is a bit more comfortable.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they definitely kept some of that stuff pretty true to like the tropey side of the vampire stuff. I think like I actually really love that scene with him though, and then I really love the one after that with him when Marcus comes to pay him a visit.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Which we haven't really talked about, but I actually thought Marcus was a pretty cool character. Like I think that I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name, but the guy that played him did a really good job of making me fearful. Like I was just like, whoa, like, and the creature design when he looked like a bat, I thought that was pretty well done. It didn't look too silly to me. It looked, like
he looked like I don't know. He looked like the Green Goblin kind of. Is
the Green Goblin? No way.
It's like really. I mean, I liked his character, and I know there was a loose tie-in in the first movie. I really would have liked, I don't know, something stronger in the first movie, because when he came in the movie 2, I was like, wait, where did you come from? And I didn't remember the tie-in from the first movie, and it kind of threw me for a loop. But I did like him as a character. I did. He was very cool.
Yeah, I liked him. I think that his like I love the because this kind of is like, and we see it throughout the franchise, but we see it a lot into that getting information from the blood. Right. I really loved that concept. Like
me too.
He's like, whatever it is he says to Craven, he's like, oh, like, why would I listen to your lies when the truth is so much sweeter? You're just like, ooh, like that was really good.
Yeah.
I really like that premise about like drinking blood being like an information game. Like I thought that was actually really cool. I like that part a lot.
Yes, it is. I do too.
Yeah. And one thing I definitely wanted to at least talk about, mostly because I think like we've all kind of like talked about like not really being super big fans of 4, but like something that you think could have been changed with the franchise to make it better. It could be multiple things, it doesn't have to be just one thing, but just in general, some things that you think would have made it maybe either more true to how it was originally, or would have maybe kept it going, or just made it stronger in general. I can go first while you think if you want. So for me, I think I kind of touched on this already. I think one of the biggest mistakes was trying to revisit a story when you don't have the original cast. I don't think there should have been any focus on Michael if we couldn't get Scott Speedman back. I think that
Right.
that was such a an instant, like, it removed me, because even though I was hopeful, I knew we were being toyed with. I knew that the glimpses of like hope that they were going to like find each other again and whatever, I knew that that wasn't, I knew that that was false. And so it really made my disdain for four kind of skyrocket. Because I'm like, you know, she, like, I love their story. Like I think their scene in Evolution is probably one of the most tasteful sex scenes I've ever seen in my life. It was like I did go see this in theaters with my parents, so it was very awkward.
It was
a teenager. But aside from that, it's very beautifully done. But I think like the promises, like the fake promises of like Michael being still a part of the story, they should have just done something else. They could have gone into the future. They probably could have, honestly, in my opinion, still done the David arc and just not like, they could have still brought Celine in, but shown Michael dying. I know that sucks to say out loud, but I think dragging it out and then killing him in the fifth movie after pretending in four that he was still alive really pissed me off. Like, I really hated that. And I think like that, and then the focus on the daughter, like four, if they had just focused on maybe like humans trying to eradicate the species, I think I would have been fine with it. And then even because I want my lichens to like come back up on the totem pole, I would like to have seen something more where like the lichens and the vampires like can work together and like, you know what, humans, you guys are suck and we're not going to take this shit anymore. And then they come forward and then that like be the moving forward with the story. Because they still could have done a lot of stuff in Blood Wars that they ended up doing anyway. But I think so much of four needed to be revamped.
I mean, well, just to show what you said, like that was the great sex scene. And I also like the scene where she like falls out of the cryogenic chamber and where she like is frozen and she like falls out. That was also a great scene that she had.
Oh yeah, with like the cold mist stuff coming up. Yeah.
But just like what you said, which I think I already said earlier, I think that one of my biggest complaints with that franchise is that because Michael was, you know, the first movie really was about how, you know, he did a lot with Michael where he changed and he was struggling with that. Then she like ties up and he's like tied up for part of most of the movie, but it's fine. But then they kind of like move away from him. And I think it may be because they couldn't have gotten him back, but I really would have liked them to have taken that character and developed it more. I would have liked her character and his character to have been like, you know, kind of like really strong. I think that was one of my major complaints. You know, I mean, 1, 2, and 3 I felt were good for the franchise. I felt that 4, when they came to rehash the franchise, I wasn't really a fan of them coming back with 4.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched 4 and 5, but I don't know. Past 3, I just kind of felt like, even though there were a lot of good kills and a lot of good fight scenes and in Blood Wars, I kind of felt those movies really, we could have done without them unless they would have had something a lot stronger, you know. They really could have done something better with that. And I kind of felt maybe that was just a way to, I don't know, bring back a franchise that really they should have just laid to rest. It was good after Lycans. They could have just ended it there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know. I don't feel that 4 and 5 are really strong. And then she comes back and she has a kid, but she was never pregnant. It's like, oh, I have a kid, and then that was the whole thing where then her holding with her daughter and the twists and the turns, and she's thinking and she's all. I mean, that was kind of like, I don't know if they wrote that before or they did that just to reprise the movie for her. You know, I don't, you know.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we get vampire babies, looking at you, Twilight, because we feel like that's what the fans want. Because you go too far into the relationship side of things, and they're like, oh, well, we'll just hit all of the notes and try to attempt to make all these people like hit everything so that everybody has what they want instead of just picking a path and like sticking with it. Because that's like the adding the vampire kid thing, like I feel like that's, or I mean, I know she was a hybrid, but you get what I'm saying. Like they never really go into like anything until that moment about vampires, like
Right.
the way that it works to have a kid from the vampire side of it.
Right.
Like they talk about people being true bloods and
Right.
how it's like a dying thing because nobody's a true blood anymore or whatever, or pure blood. I'm sorry, true blood. Pure blood. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but there was no discussion about it. And then all of a sudden we have like a 12-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, yeah, it was just, there was just this gap in the movies, and I felt like they could have stopped at 3.
Yeah.
They could have maybe combined 1 and 2 and just done 3 as 2 and had 2 movies.
They really could have. That's probably true. It's been a really long first movie, but it still would have been good, I think.
It's a long, yeah, it would have been long.
I'm gonna hit these really quick before I let Kat talk about hers. Tanis. I said that's one of the variations of the ones I said, but I assume this is JR. What's up, JR from Horror Fiend TV? Tanis was cool. Really liked him. Victor screwed him, so he played both sides. He really did, and he played that role really well.
He did.
I will say, very, very, very good. Something that could have been changed. More Amelia. Yeah, I said that earlier. If they tied her to Blood Wars, she should have had more flashbacks to her as Victor's right hand. Well, that's one of the things I was saying too, because they couldn't get her to act out any new scenes. So then we just got, regurgitated scenes from the films. Like, we know she dies on the train. Why are we seeing this again? Like, I don't need to see that again because it's not relevant. Like, how is he seeing a memory of her dead when, like, she was dead when it happened? You know what I mean? It was weird. Anyway.
Right, and they're also, they could have had a lot more movement. Like the movement in the movie was a little off too. Like they could have moved. They should have moved during the day, but they didn't. So some of them moved at night, and there's a lot of disconnect.
Oh yeah,
werewolves also.
Ow. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's a good point. Yeah. What about you, Kat? What do you think is something that could have been changed to make it better?
Well, I mean, similar to Tali's point, just the 1 through 3 as a series made sense. It was a full rounded story. We didn't need a 4 and a 5. And I think where they went wrong was they could have, like, this is a beautifully made universe. There's so much depth and richness in it. And they could have taken completely new characters and done a completely new story in this universe, and I would have watched it. It's still the Underworld name. I would have watched it.
Totally agree.
Like I think there was enough there that they could have really been creative, instead of just trying to pull things from the first 3 movies when you didn't have all of the working pieces to be able to do it. So that's, yeah. I mean, I still would watch a series of new characters in this universe.
I 1,000% would too.
Yeah, I love the universe. I actually do. And the worlds and I do.
There's a lot of potential though, because they've introduced us to so many things. Like, and it could be back in time. It could be in the future. It could be stuff that was going on in between all of that stuff. Like that is one thing I did like about Blood Wars was the different covens. So like, we never got to see anything outside of the rich and the lifestyles of the rich and the famous one that we got in like 1. And it just, I really think like that could have been an easy win for them. I mean, they've already shown us, right? Like when they did Rise of the Lycans, they already showed us that they could do something not Celine and still keep us engaged, still keep us in like wanting it and being drawn to it and loving it to the point that Rise of the Lycans is almost on everybody's like everybody loves it. Haven't met a single person that doesn't love that movie. And I think like they really had a lot of potential to really do some really cool stuff within that universe. I think you're exactly right. I'm going to
be honest, and this might not be the nicest thing, but I honestly think that 4 was just to give Kate Beckinsale another movie in the Underworld.
I don't think
that it was anything other than we're going to give you another movie and this is going to be it. And I think that was the whole point of number 4.
You're probably right. Was she not married to the director?
She was.
I was gonna say.
People say that that's also why she had that outfit. in Underworld because she was married to the director. I've heard that also, but I think number 4 was just to give Kate Beckinsale a movie. Honestly, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, judging based off the storyline in general, that's pretty much the only thing that makes sense. I didn't say this. I do love the guy that plays the giant lichen.
Yes.
I can't think of his name. He plays Dyson in a different show.
The one that had the that she threw the things and they got stuck in this. Yes.
Yeah.
He was my favorite werewolf. I can't talk.
I liked him and but I think like the whole like humans discovering monsters and like trying to like harness, like I don't like stories like that typically because I feel like as human beings we suck. We're super weak. I feel like if we came against something like this, I just don't think that those kind of it's like the bad haunting movies that end with like the people winning over the spirits. That's not happening. Like in real life, if you're dealing with like some like messed up ghost situation and it's malicious, like you're a human being. Like no. So I don't like all of that like harnessing like supernatural beings and
well that was wasn't the 4th movie where the humans finally came to terms with the fact that the vampires, the werewolves were there and it was like all like
they didn't have a choice, which is what would have happened initially when they started that shit. Initially, when they started being like, you know what, we're going to kill all of you, they would have been like, you know what, no, you're not. Like, that's not a thing because there's so many of us. I mean, I feel like, I felt like that, I hated the concept. And you know what I hated too? I hated that they called it the Purge. That annoyed me.
That's right. So, they did.
I was like, stop it. I hated that so much. That was like the worst.
That's right.
The Purge. Every time they said it, I was like, ugh.
Whenever they kill, it was always that's right. They always use that word though.
The Purge. No. And then we find out in 5, they like purged nothing. Like there's so many left and just hanging out. It's just like, come on. Yeah. And Blood Wars twist was Amelia's descendants. Yeah, I didn't like that though. I thought that was silly. Like they did a lot of this whole like shouldn't be together, but you are together. Like they did that a lot, and I felt like it worked really well with Michael and Celine, and then Lucian and not Amelia. Oh my God, Sonia. But then after they kept doing it, I was like, pick like a different trope. 2 different actresses played Amelia. What? No way. Is that true?
Really?
No way.
Really? No.
No way. That's the same woman.
Me. Really? I'm shocked.
Oh, I got 3%. I gotta find it. I'm a super fast IMDb-er.
Okay, look it up. Because really? Wow.
I don't believe that. No way. Underworld. No way. Okay. Oh, that stupid blonde's name was Erica. I guess she just looked like a Gabrielle to me.
God, I almost. Jeez.
It was not a different actress. It's the same lady. Zeta Gorog.
Oh. G-O-R what? George?
Guru, because it's got an umlaut over it. Gorog. Zeta is her first name. But she played Amelia in both Underworld and Underworld Evolution. Oh, Rise of the Lycans might be what he means. No way. No. No. I'm sorry. I know this is like holy. Who played Amelia in Rise of the Lycans?
According to Underworld Wiki, fandom, Zeta Gorog as Amelia in Underworld. Gorog appears as the vampire elder Amelia in Underworld and Underworld Evolution.
She is not.
The original Underworld was small.
What was she? Did it show her in Rise of the Lycans? Am I crazy? It showed her, right? I don't know. Spend too much time on it. But that's
forgettable. I don't really remember.
She definitely was Amelia in 1 and 2. I'm going to research the Rise of the Lycans thing because I feel like I remember seeing her in Rise of the Lycans, but maybe I didn't see her. And maybe that's the one that played her as somebody else. Because Rise of the Lycans does not show up on her IMDb page.
Oh. So there might be a different actress then if it doesn't show up.
And maybe it was like so well cast, like no one noticed. I didn't notice.
Or the makeup was just so good. They found a double.
Well, Rona Mitra and Kate Beckinsale could be siblings. Like they look so much alike.
Yeah, they could.
And Rona Mitra has been in a bunch of stuff with wolves. She was in Skinwalkers with Jason Bear, which is like, I love that movie so much.
She was.
And then she was in something else with wolves. But anyway, I digress. I didn't know that. Anyway.
I didn't either.
I really would have loved to have seen more Amelia. They just talk about her a lot, and we don't get a lot of her. So it would have been cool to see some of those. So I think that's all I have to say about Underworld.
That's all I have also.
Yeah. I'm curious about this whisper of another film, and if they do something.
I forgot where I heard it. I either I saw it on Twitter or Instagram, or someone made a comment. I saw it somewhere, but I saw it once. That there was talk of a sixth film, and I never saw it again. I saw it in passing. I was scrolling. I was doom scrolling when I should have been like reading or something. But I don't know. I didn't really look into it because I'm not going to watch it because I hope that's not true, because that would be just like they would really have to like really do something really amazing for the sixth one to be really good.
Yeah, it couldn't be a Celine story. If it's a Celine story, or
they need to lay Celine's story to rest.
Leave it be. Yeah, I think we move on from that. I did like that she's more like we do get to see. It starts a little bit in 4, but then we get it better in 5. Like I did like kind of seeing the more like human sides of her, I guess is like the best way to put it. But like the emotional sides of like when she explains to the daughter in Awakening, when she's like, she was like yesterday, she's like, all this happened. And then yesterday I wake up and it's been 12 years and the love of my life is gone. And the only thing I have left is a child I didn't know about. Like I liked those kind of pieces to her. I thought that was kind of cool seeing like her soften down a little bit after everything she's been through and like falling in love for the first real time and like all these things. I did like that, but I don't want any more Celine.
I just found an article that said that's saying that there's a possibility that they're going to do another movie, but not with her.
Okay.
But then I'm not going to watch it because the thing for me is, even though like I didn't like the 4th and 5th, Underworld for me is Celine. Like I can't watch an Underworld movie without Celine. So I mean, I don't know if I could watch it, but I think they're going to do it without her, from what it says here.
So based on every movie that they have already put out, do you really think that she would not be involved? Like, yeah, she would. I bet they would sneak her in there at the very end just to be like, "There's Kate Beckinsale."
Possibly.
I think they would. And I think, like, I don't know, Rise of the Lycans didn't have Celine, and I loved that one.
It didn't.
That's like my favorite. And not because she's not in it, obviously, but just because it just goes to show what they can do with the rest
So
of
if
the
they
story.
do a 6th one without her, it has to just kick it out of the ballpark, because otherwise
it would have to be a really, really unique like take in a different direction. But I would watch it. I don't know if I'd go see it in theaters, depending on what the trailer looked like, but maybe.
Yeah, but I think they're talking about it, a 6th one. If you Google it, there's articles just talking about it.
It's like whispers. Well, they're probably jumping on the let's keep things. Let's do all the continuations and the remakes right now while that's like really popular.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you both for making time to do this. This was fun. I love this franchise.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. I like talking about this movie.
Yeah. Everybody watching now and was watching and coming back to watch later, all of the information to find both of these amazing people is in the description for this episode. You can also find stuff from Tali on the Sinister Scoop. She has reviews for them. And then, I mean, I've got a stack of books that prove that I think you should invest in Kat's writing. So do that also. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this episode. Thanks again for hanging out, ladies. This was fun. Thanks everybody in the chat that came and hanged out. It's late. Hung out. I'm tired. It's just water. I don't know.
Thank you for having me. Now I have a list of books. I can check out all your books because I haven't read your books. So now I can go and add books to read.
Well, thank you.
I'm gonna start with Hallowed Oblivion.
All right.
That'll be a quick one probably for you. You read a lot faster than I do.
I read a lot.
Yeah,
I swallow them.
That's this one.
Oh, okay, that one, and then I can read. Yeah, that's like one of my bedtime stories.
Pages. It goes from very, very thin to very, very fat very quickly. the next
Yeah.
book is chunky.
Yeah, that'll be one of my bedtime stories. I usually read like books under 100 pages, like at night before bed, and I can read it in a sitting. And I tweet it as a bedtime story usually.
Man, I feel like I just read what are they called? They're called like novelettes, right? When they're like under
Novellas,
like, and I just read one by Lauren Carter, Your Darling Death, and I was like, oh, it's really small. Like, it'll take me a couple of days. I'm such a slippery. Like, it'll take me a couple of days to read it, and I like, it's like, how many pages was it? Oh, it was like 50 pages, less than 50 pages.
Yeah,
one sitting.
Right.
It feels so accomplished when you're like, okay, done. You can do that easier with the little ones. Yeah, I know when I got the Wild Dark, I did have a mild panic attack, but the good thing is when I get invested in books, it is a lot. I am faster, to get through them when I like them. So it didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. I was like, oh God, this is going to take me 6 months to finish this because I'm just such a slow reader. But I digress. Okay, cool. Well, thanks again to you guys and to everybody that came and stopped by. Once again, all the links for everybody is in the description for this episode. So make sure you go follow, like, and check out books and articles. And that's all I have for this. So thank you guys again for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week coming up. I'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.